All right, how you guys doing out there?
We're great.
I guess we got the hand on.
How are you?
Mic there.
Is everybody having fun?
I think you got the switch off.
Is this on? Yes.
We ran out of mics. It's on. How you guys doing down there?
Great.
Look at these. These guys are all here to see you.
What a crowd.
Wow.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody.
So I just have to ask, when in 1990, in the early 90s, 1990, 91, 92, when you either got the call or you got the audition, did you think that 28 years later that you would be right here, like Aladdin would still be the iconic movie that it is today?
No.
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 I totally knew. No, I didn't know.
How did you, when you were auditioning, did you know it was for a Disney movie at the time, or how did your agent call you and let you know that you were up for this role or that you got the role? Do you guys remember getting that role?
I remember my mom said, "You have an audition later today for some cartoon." I was like, all right, some cartoon. Thank God I didn't know, because I would have been so nervous I would have done a really poor job at the audition. I think it's only because I didn't know what a big deal it was that I was able to do a good job and be cool under pressure.
You know, around the time I was recording Aladdin, it's like I ran into a friend of mine, and I remember he asked me, he goes, "What are you working on now?" And I swear to God, I said, "I don't know, some stupid cartoon." Yeah.
Linda, do you remember the call to become a Disney princess?
Oh, well, at the time, I just knew I had an audition for what I thought was like a kid's cartoon. I didn't know it was going to be a movie. I had no idea. And my friend got the scene, and I read it in the car on the way to the audition, because she had a fax machine. Back then, it was faxes. I didn't even have a fax machine, so she got the fax, and we drove to the audition together, and it was, no idea what it was going to become. I had no idea. There was no way we could have known. They didn't even know, I don't think.
But aren't you glad you didn't know?
Yeah, I think so.
I would have choked.
Think so. Yeah, no, it's good that we didn't know more than we did.
Yeah, Jonathan knew.
I knew, and I was very nervous. And there was an actor named Tony Azito. Anyone remember Tony Azito? Anyway, he was waiting to also audition. I thought he's going to get it.
Oh, wow.
I was sure Tony was going to get it, because he looked just like some of the drawings that I'd seen. I don't know. Silly, but that's what it is.
Frank, did you? Yeah.
I auditioned for both the prince and the princess.
By the way, if you know anything about Frank Welker, he could play both the
He
prince.
could have done it. Absolutely.
But I got to just tell you all, because, I'm giddy to see these talented people. I haven't seen anybody on the stage. I think Gilbert maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. 25 years, and to see these wonderful people again has just been a thrill for me. So I'm just pleased as punch to be here.
Yes.
No, everybody looks the same, sounds the same.
No,
But
a huge
actually,
thanks for that. Really, we're so lucky that they brought us all together, because this is the first time we've all been together in all this time. So thank you all.
amazing.
Much
thank
fun.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, so I think we have some questions out there. How you doing out there? What's your name? Oh, there's no mic there. All right.
I know the feeling.
All right, so I'll tell you what. I'll go down there. Here we go. Oh, here's where I break everything. All right, how you doing? What's your name?
Hey, doing well. I'm Anthony. I'm from right here in Richmond. Aladdin is my favorite animated movie of all time, so thank you guys very much for your contribution to it. So I'd like to ask, what was your favorite, and it's a favorite question, yes, what was your favorite line or scene to record? And if you're willing, would you do the line in the character's voice? If you're willing.
Who wants to go first? Well, for me, one of the sessions that really stands out in my mind was the recording the balcony scene with Robin Williams. And he's a bee buzzing in my ear and doing all these things. And he's trying to Cyrano de Bergerac me so I say the right stuff to the princess. But which was really fun to record that. But I don't remember what are some of my buzz off. Oh yeah, punctual. That was really fun. That was hard to keep up because he was improvising a lot. So I was just, and then he was so funny that day that I fell on the floor laughing, and they got it on tape. It's really cool.
I think I have one of the best lines in the movie. Jasmine gets to say, "It's all so magical." And for me, that was the experience that sums it up. That's what it's been for 25 years. It's all so magical.
Well, when they shoved both me and Jafar back in the lamp, and I say, "Shut up, you moron!"
Almost 2 years of hearing things like that from Gilbert. Can you imagine? There's only one line that I really remember, which is my most abject and humble apologies, Your Majesty. And I think I only remember, and Prince of Boo Boo, I remember that. Matt, I don't.
He who enters the cave of wonders, beware.
Hey guys, my question is for you, Linda. I've been a fan of Jasmine since I was a little kid, and she's always been my favorite Disney princess. And my question to you is, how did you get the part of Jasmine in the first place?
Well, I auditioned for it. I had an audition in California, and I went back maybe over 4 months, multiple times, and I kept having more and more to read, and more people were watching me do it, and then just eventually I got a call saying, "You got the job." So thank you for being a huge fan. You're such a big fan. I know your name. This is John, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm a big fan. My question is, what are your opinions on the live-action remake of Aladdin?
I loved it. I took my son to the premiere, which was at the El Capitan Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, where we had the premiere for our Aladdin all those years ago. So it was really crazy for me because for the original premiere, I took Candace Cameron to the premiere as my date, and then fast forward all these years to the premiere of that one, and I took my 10-year-old son. But we had a great time. We really enjoyed it.
Traitor!
I mean, it was terrible. No, I had a good time, and I love all that Alan Menken music. It was fun.
Yeah, Jonathan and I saw a screening of it in New York together, so Jasmine and Jafar snuck into a screening. And it was really great. I loved seeing Princess Jasmine expanded. I loved seeing her even own more of who she was. And I really feel like they wrote that character in 1992. She was really a princess for today. So she was so ahead of her time, and it was great to see that. Yeah.
My favorite tweet I got around the time that the new Aladdin came out, I was very flattered by. Someone said, if I see the new Aladdin and it doesn't have Gilbert Gottfried's voice, I can't be held responsible for my actions in the theater.
That was me. And I plead the fifth on this question.
I missed the voices of the gang. Yeah. I think, you know, in animation, in full-on animation, storytelling is much more dynamic. You can go anywhere, and it's magical, and so I have a special place in my heart for our show.
Hi, everybody. I have a question for Frank Welker. That this may be off topic from Aladdin, but in Once New Scooby-Doo, why do you make Fred act like an airhead?
Were you the casting person? I'm in the feature that's about to be released. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm just doing this for a friend because
Well, he sounds like a really good friend. No, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Do you mean the feature that's about to be released, or something we did in the past?
No, the animated series. What's new? What's new, Scooby-Doo?
Okay, yeah, huh? Well, the answer was, yeah, I look a little taller than I am. That wasn't the question. I think that, you know, we as actors just try to do what the writers and producers and directors have on the page, and then hopefully that we can do a really good job with that. And I think that they're just trying to give Fred a little bit more latitude to his character. He's always been kind of, you know, straight. Hey, gang! Well, yeah. And so now they've added a couple cup of coffees, you know. Right, gang, sure, up, you know, whatever. But I think, you know, it really is just a matter of playing with the characters and trying to get new areas for them to go to.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Welker.
You're welcome.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Hello. You mentioned you didn't think much when a lot of you didn't think much when you first recorded for Aladdin back. You thought it was just some cartoon. Did any of your attitudes change when you found out you were going to be doing the movie with Robin Williams? Just when did you first find out, and did that change your attitude towards the movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, yeah, definitely, because I was a huge Robin Williams fan. I mean, Dead Poets Society was my favorite movie of all time, and I loved Mork and Mindy when I was really little. I had a Mork toy, Mork from Mork and a little egg, and yeah, so I lost my mind. I mean, I was really, you know, that was when I started to get nervous, but I already had the job, so it was too late. Yeah, I think we all picked up. I think maybe in the very beginning we didn't realize what we were getting ourselves into, but then things like that would come up and you'd say, oh, this is going to be a really big deal.
The Genie was not in my audition scene. I auditioned with the marketplace scene, so I didn't even know that character really, how it was written. When I first saw the whole script, I was like, this sounds like Robin Williams. It just, like, it was there. They already knew, but they weren't telling us. I didn't know before I got the job either.
I don't know how many times I've heard stories where people say, oh, when Gilbert and Robin got into the sound booth together, that was insanity. And I never worked once with him during the making of Aladdin. I've run into him at comedy clubs and stuff but never once during the making of Aladdin. But I always think this. I think now the way animation has changed. I mean, Robin, I'm sure would have still been in the movie. But if it was a year later, it would have been like, you know, they would have had Tom Cruise as Aladdin, Julia Roberts as the princess, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio as Iago. And so we got in right at that point before the door closed.
Well, I'm just remembering that Gilbert and I were on a train going to an event a few years ago, and we both agreed, I think, that when we took the job, we didn't think it was a good job, and we knew that we were about to do something that might be special, and it was a very good job, but we really had no idea, and certainly that we'd be here all these years later talking about it. I think that was the thing. It was like, it was a great job, you know. Everyone wanted to work on animated movies at the time, it seemed, and I think that was really it. And then it turned into, you know, something because of some kind of alchemy that nobody can really put their fingers on until it happens. Did you know? You've done a lot of things for it.
Well, no, I really didn't have a sense of, you know, of anything really super special, but it seemed like a good show. But knowing that Robin was coming into the studio, I knew that something strange was going to happen. And like Gilbert, I worked with Robin at the comedy club, so I knew what a genius he was anyway. And I thought it was interesting, though, that here you take this story out of history and time, and that Robin was so brilliant that his ad-libs began to come back to, you know, modern day, and he was doing, you know, Cronkite and all these impressions, and that had maybe a little bit to do with, but not much. But I think that his brilliance was so good that they moved the picture to where he went, and they said, well, you know, he's a genie. He could do Walter Cronkite and Ed Sullivan and blah 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 and dogs and all. So I mean, it was interesting how they blended his genius with what they were doing, you know, at the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey fam, my name's Austin. I just wanted to, real quick before jumping in, thank each of you. For the last 30 years of my life, I've enjoyed every bit of content that you've had to offer, ranging from Scooby-Dooby-Doo to Farce the Penguins to Gilmore Girls as of 2 years ago because of my wife. You're amazing. But I just wanted to dive in and ask you, were there any Disney or any other franchises, any pieces that you feel from your experiences with Aladdin and throughout your careers that you could have filled better than a different actor or actress? I know, loaded question, sorry.
No.
No way.
Okay, it's fair, my apologies. Meant no offense.
Thank you for your question.
Hello again, guys.
Hello, Jafar.
Well, technically, my name is Jonathan, spelled just like Jonathan and Jonathan Freeman. But my question for you guys is, back to a Genie subject. Out of all the quotes in the movie Aladdin, what was your favorite Genie quote and why?
Oh my gosh. Please start. Do you remember any of them?
Oh, no. If it's not a line of mine, I forget it immediately.
I know it's true. Actors just look for their lines. And my line, and my line. But well, you know, the genie's big message in that scene that I was talking about on the balcony when he's telling Aladdin, just be yourself, man. And Aladdin's like, that's the last thing I want to be. I don't want to be myself. I want to be like some other guy that you might like better than me. And but like the message of just being yourself, I think, was one of the key messages of the movie. And that's what, when Aladdin realizes that he doesn't need to put on any kind of like facade and that Jasmine will love him for who he is. I thought that was the cool message of the movie. But I loved all of his jokes and his comedy and his improv. And I think, did they do this? I heard they were going to, I think it was one of the bonus features in the last time they released it on Blu-ray or something, where they animated a lot of Robin's outtakes, which is really fun, I think. Is that, am I making that up, or is that a real thing?
I think that's a real
No, yeah,
Okay, cool.
that was a real thing. That was a real thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, now I need to go back and watch that. But yeah, I mean, he would improvise so much, it was really fun. So a lot of that stuff was just stuff that came out of the, off the top of his head.
I don't remember the lines, but I remember the moment at the end when he talks about freedom, and I thought it was actually it's very sincere and heartfelt, and it's one of the moments that he really was able to pull back, and it meant something. I don't know. I feel that, freedom. I think people forget, that Aladdin was not invented by Disney. it's a centuries-old story. It's been around for a gazillion years, and the theme of the genie has always been that he's a slave to the lamp. And I think it's kind of lost a little bit in some of it because it's such a fun movie. I don't think it's wrong, I just think that's what happens. And so at the very end, when they finally do address the subject of him able to be free and have freedom, I think it's wonderful. I don't remember the lines, though. I didn't brush up.
Do you have a favorite line?
Let me see. Mind holding this? Really quick? Oh, it's just, the certain life of a genie. Phenomenal cosmic power. Itty bitty living space. Oh, thank you. Y'all are too kind. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm just like a really big Disney nerd. I love Disney. But anyways, so being in Aladdin, is there ever any time that you've thought about maybe if there was a crossover between Aladdin and another Disney movie and maybe what that other Disney movie would be if there was a crossover?
So they thought of it for me when they did Ralph Breaks the Internet. So that was the greatest crossover for all of the princesses to be able to come together and be in that movie. Who's seen it? Yeah, right?
That was so funny.
It was so fun. And we all, again, didn't really know what we were getting into. They said, you're going to have a couple lines in this sequel. And then they showed us the scene at D23. We were standing backstage watching the scene for the first time, and we were all like, oh, wow, this is bigger than we imagined. So for me, that's the best crossover for all of the princesses.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miriam, and I always was a big fan of Aladdin. I actually acted in a version of Aladdin in high school in a play. I also was a big fan of Steve in Full House.
Thank you.
of the heartthrob.
DJ, I love you.
What was your favorite memory of Full House?
Well, I'm not just saying this because you're a big Disney fan, but when we did the episodes in Disney World, that was really fun. That was really, really fun. It was fun to be to be a teenager in Disney World for weeks and weeks with my own Disney guide who would drive me. He's like, "You want to do Space Mountain 3 more times before lunch?" It was amazing, and we had so much fun. And then everybody, well, not everybody, but the people who know the Steve Aladdin connection always get a kick out of seeing me in the dressed up like Aladdin in the theme park. And so that whole thing was really fun, dressing up as all the characters.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and this is also about Fuller House. Is Steve in Fuller House your real personality, or are you just acting?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And he's very much a part of my personality because I've been playing him for so long. They're just like, what would Scott say in this situation? But yeah, definitely. And I like to eat a lot in real life. And there were a couple of times on the show where I had to eat too much and I didn't feel well. Like when I was tasting wedding cakes in that one episode. We just had to shoot that way too many times. But, and then when we opened up a sandwich shop, it got dark. But yeah, but I like playing Steve. And Steve is very enthusiastic, and I'm very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I'm always like this. Me and Steve are both like, and Steve's a podiatrist, which is a foot doctor, and I have an appointment on Monday at a podiatrist. So.
I especially like the part where Kimmy's playing Django with sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
With deli meat, and you're like, you just come in and take the whole entire thing.
Yep, that's Steve. He's always hungry. One day it's going to catch up with him, and he's going to weigh like 700 pounds. in fullest house.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lillian, and I was wondering what your favorite princesses are other than Jasmine.
Do not answer that question, any of you.
We all had to sign a document.
I'll go first. My favorite, I have two favorites, Belle and Ariel. Those are my favorites.
Both excellent choices.
Thank you. They wouldn't dare.
Maleficent is my favorite
She doesn't
princess.
count as a princess.
And Linda knows it, so we're okay with it.
Maleficent isn't a princess.
Actually, she was.
She's an evil queen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have a fight with the 12-year-old.
Hello, my name is Sage, and my question is, after all of these times, what would happen if Iago got fed another cracker? What would happen?
Yeah, see, this is the kind of question where I'd give an answer that would wind up on TMZ. And they'd remove my voice from every single Aladdin cartoon. So I'm going to plead the fifth.
You guys have tough questions for sure.
We're being very evasive.
We are.
Hello, I'm Kevin. My name is primarily for Jonathan. They always say when playing a villain, you don't play a villain, you find the sympathy in it. Well, my wife and I have an ongoing conversation on long car rides about the culpability, let's say, of certain Disney villains. And based on what we see of the Sultan's leadership capabilities, do you feel Jafar would actually be a better leader than the Sultan?
Absolutely. I thought the movie was going to be called Jafar. It was like Aladdin. I mean, that's the way you play a villain. It's all about the villain, you know, if you want to play a villain.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Wes. My question is for everybody here. I kind of really wish that Robin was still with us, and it kind of makes me wonder what was it like to work with him? You've mentioned that it's been fun. You knew it was going to be crazy, insane, but what was it like to be with him, to talk with him, and to interact with him and work with him?
You know, when you got past the being super starstruck, he was just a cool, normal guy. You know, he was very soft-spoken and thoughtful, and would look at the storyboards and go over everything, and you could tell things were like the kettle was turned on and it was starting to brew in his mind. And then when the red light would go on, Robin Williams would come out that we all know, and it was amazing to see the transformation. It was incredible. But yeah, it was pretty amazing. The thing that was hard about it was that everybody else in the room was behind 6 inches of glass. So you would see them crying and they were laughing so hard and just bent over, and you were just standing right in front of the microphone trying to keep it together. That was the biggest challenge. So it was fun.
I also grew up watching Robin on Mork and Mindy and Dead Poet Society too. It was our generation's big movie, and I I don't know what
I once went to a party at Linda's house, and every actor from Dead Poet Society was in the house.
That's
It
true.
was insane.
That's true.
It was crazy. I had a heart attack.
Yeah, you're so funny. He's like, I'm moving to New York. I'm like, you should. You never did. I know. For me, Robin was larger than life, but when I met him in person, I was struck by how gentle he was, what a soft and kind person he was, and it was really something that for some reason I wasn't expecting. I expected all the big stuff, but to really connect with him on such a personal and human level really was a surprise for me, and it was something I'll never forget. The day that we worked in the studio with him, I will never forget it. It was life-changing.
I remember a number of times at like the comedy clubs, Robin would always stop in and just like, go crazy on stage. And a number of times he invited me up in the middle of what he was doing to just go up and play with him and riff off each other, which was always fun. And the first thing I remember about any dealings with him before that was I was like, struggling to get on at the club. So finally I had a spot, and they were introducing me, and the door opens up, and Robin comes in, and it was when Mork and Mindy was the #1 show. And so they, of course, were going, okay, forget Gilbert, get Robin right up there. And Robin said to them, he said, I have some friends in the audience, and I'd really like them to see Gilbert first. And so that's what I remember the best about Robin.
I think I had 2 sessions with him, and I think really probably Scott and Linda had the most time.
No, I just had one session with him. I have very little dialogue with the Genie.
And we only had a couple of sessions together, right?
You and I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe Gilbert too, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you worked together, sometimes you worked in tandem, sometimes a lot of it was separate because everyone had a separate schedule.
But then when we did the TV show, that was a little more like doing a radio play where we were all sort
That
of
was.
Yes, we got to
standing
be
there
in a room together for 2 years and 100 episodes of the cartoon series, which I think, yes, thank you. I think Disney Plus would be a really great place for that cartoon series to be out in, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we need to see that again. It was so good.
It's true.
We love that, and we all got to work together. Like Gilbert and I got to work together a lot in New York, because whenever I was in New York, it would be just Gilbert and I recording.
And of course, also during the making of Aladdin, I never ran into Linda at all. I didn't know, or you. We either.
I don't think we met till it was over.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
for the premiere.
Is that true? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And what I remember, in the middle of making Aladdin, I had a burst appendix, and I was in the hospital, and you called, and it was basically, I pick up the phone, and I go, hello, and it's like, hi, Gilbert. Hi, it's Linda. And I thought,
That sounds like
some
Minnie Mouse.
goddamn 2-year-old found out where I am.
Yes, I was worried about you. I'm glad you're okay. I remember that too. Jonathan remembers too. Jonathan showed
The
up.
what? Huh?
You threw me out of the room.
Really?
Yeah, no, not really. No, I showed up at the hospital with a corned beef sandwich for him, so I thought it would make him feel better, and I think you nearly lost it.
Yeah. I couldn't consume water at that time. So.
The best thing, though, was when the movie, shortly after it opened, we had to ride camels and elephants down Main Street in a parade. And sorry, Gilbert, but if you could have seen Gilbert Gottfried in pain from his appendix getting onto an elephant. It
In
was
the rain, right?
It was memorable. I mean, I won't forget that.
I remember first of all, I was scared to climb up and hold on to an elephant. And I was in pain. And I kept saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And then they said to me, well, we've got entertainment tonight and Access Hollywood. I said, all right, how do I get on?
And wasn't it raining the whole time in that
Yes,
parade?
horrible rain, yeah.
All right, so we have our last question. Are you ready? No pressure.
Hello, my name is Alex. So just curious, was there any voice actors that you took inspiration from and sort of formed any of your own characters?
I was a big fan of Disney movies as a child, and I had a record player and read-along storybooks. And I used to read along with the princesses when I was little, never really knowing that I was practicing for something that I was going to do as a grown-up. But I was a fan first, and I think that you really need to be a great fan of something to be really great at it. So I loved Disney films, and I, in particular, loved the princesses. So that was my practice, the read-along storybooks.
I was always fascinated by voiceover people, and I guess, well, this is a too easy one, but Mel Blanc was a great voiceover guy. Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all those, and then there was a bunch of others that I would start recognizing the voices in cartoons. So I was always fascinated by that.
Yeah, and Dawes Butler, who did almost all the Hanna-Barbera voices. Don Messick, who did most of his sidekicks. And I was fortunate to work with Mel and with Don. Don was like a mentor to me. And just watching those guys, but as you say with Mel Blanc, I mean, there was such power came out of his body. It was unbelievable, when you think about how indelible those characters are. So that was my early experience, was getting a chance to work with those guys. And wow, there's something else.
When I was a kid, I was really into Looney Tunes and the Warner Brothers, Yosemite Sam and all that stuff. And the first thing I ever did on stage was a talent show where I played Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam when I was 7 or 8. But I wasn't really channeling Yosemite Sam, but when I was a kid, I used to go, what is it? Any one of you lily-livered, bow-legged varmints care to slap leather with me? Which doesn't sound anything, and I was 8, so I didn't sound anything like Yosemite Sam. But I was an animated kid, so it's funny that I got into this. My wife says I talk really loud and very expressively. So if we're in the mall or at the Grove in LA, which is an outdoor mall, and people come over to me, she's like, if you didn't talk so loud, people wouldn't notice you so much. So it's funny.
Stage voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
She's like, just pipe down.
All right, so that is it. Thank you all very much. Let's hear it.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.